The EPM mission reads that we are a resource and voice for financial empowerment. The EPM vision, which is connected to the EPM way, is to continue to offer financial service, communication, and assistance to the communities we serve.
What makes us different is our loan officers. They care about the people. Our number one message in this company is the customer. Always do everything you can for that customer.
We as a staff work together as a team, and we also on one page, one goal, to know that the end goal is the other person, which is the home buyer.
The big thing that we want to do is provide financial empowerment to our consumers. The ramifications of not owning versus owning is very vast. So it's really about maximizing your earning potential to build wealth.
Our diversity, it's a large part of what sets us apart. And the way we look at business with an empathic approach, we do care.
I have grown up here. I've pretty much done almost every position here and have just grown and learned throughout the 10 years and been given tons of opportunity to advance. I can't tell you how much this place means to me.
My favorite part of EPM is the relationships that we build. I mean, I see my coworkers more than I even see my family throughout the week. So it's important that we have that relationship with each other. I know that I'm going to work hard with my coworkers, but I also know that I'm going to be able to have a fun time with them.
When you join EPM, it's like you're gaining a huge, giant family. The people here are just funny and amazing.
The 23 Fundamentals, or the EPM Way, is our new culture plan. They are led by great communication, ethics, morals. All in all, they make us better. They make us EPM. The idea of work and home is truly been blurred. So when our culture plan was created, we wanted to transcend just being in the office.
It's really about being a brotherhood, a sisterhood, but it's still all about one mission and one objective, is to make sure that we're not only leading to financial empowerment, but we're growing our communities, we're serving our communities, we're growing our individuals.
Most of the loans we're doing are for families. It's the biggest investment in their lives.
For me to know that every little part that goes into the end goal of home ownership makes a difference, and we're playing a big part of that for that prospective home buyer to have their future home.
There's certain programs that not every lender offers, and we try to offer as many of those programs as possible so anybody could kind of fit the mold with a program that we have and offer that to them, so then they could get that purchase done and own a home.
You know, the gold standard is treat somebody how you would want to be treated. I think that's the way people would want to be treated best. They want to make sure that somebody's looking out for their best interest, not yours, not the company, not the industry. So you definitely got to put yourself in their shoes and empathize and make sure you're looking and more importantly, listening very, very generously to what they're saying and what they're trying to accomplish.
It feels amazing to know that my team and I were able to contribute to a prospective buyer having their home. And for that home buyer to finally walk into the doors and have their home is just amazing, and we contributed to that.
It gives you a sense of pride in what we're doing here and gratitude to be able to help out those people get things and achieve their goals as well.
A lot of people talk about care, and the only way to truly care is through showing action and showing what you're doing for them in that moment.
We're able to help people to achieve the American dream, which is home ownership. But it's not just home ownership. That's your home. That's your family. So generations can be there just by one impactful movement that we do.
Live from the virtual Daytona International Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the EPM Omega Cup Series Spring Bowl. We're from virtual Daytona Beach. We're happy to have you with us on RaceBot TV. Tonight, alongside of myself, Evan Pasoko, happy to be joined in the broadcast booth by Jesse Wuji and Sean Yoder, with our producer Tyler Maxson downstairs bringing us to you. And Jesse, back now for a second time with this Omega Cup Series. We did it the first time out last year in December. It was a barn burner of a short track race at Nashville, where we saw some of the biggest names in sim racing, Parker Retzlaff and Daniel Silvestri, come together, bump it around on the last lap of the race to determine the winner. We're back this time around for the Spring Bowl, and we're taking it to the high banks of Daytona.
Oh, yeah, it was a lot of fun at Nashville in the last event in December, and we gave away $10,000 cash prizes to our competitors. And I think it really helped out a lot for people's Christmas because, you know, we had our winner going home with $7,500 and the other cash prizes, you know, distributed between the rest of the top five. And everyone loved the event. They had a good time. And afterwards, everyone reached out and they're like, hey, when's the next event? When can we compete again? So we decided, you know what, the competitors like this, the fans like it, people are watching it, people are talking about it, let's have some other events. So we decided that we're going to put on at least 4 more events this year. We're going to have a Spring Bowl, a Summer Bowl, a Fall Bowl, and then another Winter Bowl. We decided that the Spring Bowl was going to be Daytona. Obviously, we have Daytona Week right now, Speed Week's going on in real life for NASCAR. We figured, hey, let's align with that same thing and let's have the same track going on. Everyone loves Daytona, and I feel like it gives one a shot to compete and have an opportunity to win. You know, maybe on the 1.5 mile tracks and the short tracks and the road courses, you might not have all the skills in the world to get up front and win. But at Daytona, it's all about the draft. It's all about making smart moves, moving up front, and you just never know who's going to take the win. You don't have to be the most skilled driver, but if you can just understand how the draft works, have a little bit of patience, and understand in order to finish first, you must first finish, that's what takes you to the end. And now these drivers are competing for a $5,000 prize pool for this event. We have $5,000 we're giving away for each of our events for the rest of this year. It should be pretty fun. This is our members race now. So in order to compete in the prize pool type races, you have to be an ERA member. So you have to be an eRacing Association member, where you pay your annual or monthly dues in order to compete in these prize pool type events. We still have a free event. That free event is giving out different Amazon gift cards and things like that. But if you want the big money, you got to become a member. And we had plenty of people sign up to become a member for this race. And now we've dwindled it down to the top 40. How are you feeling about what's going on today, Sean? And, you know, just how much excitement are you seeing out there?
Excited to be here. We've already got a bunch of people in the chat streams. We're streaming on the ERA Twitch page, the eRacing Association YouTube, and the eRacing Association Facebook pages. Already a bunch of people viewing. Already a bunch of people basically rooting on their favorite drivers. I've had a couple people chime in and say, man, I really wish I'd have made it. We've had a couple people chime in and talk about, you know, one guy had a computer meltdown. Not mad though, like literally not mad. Everybody's basically like, I had a blast on track. I got caught up in this. I got caught up in that. That's part of racing. It's one of those things. And especially at super speedways like Daytona, I mean, there's going to be big ones. You're going to get caught up in them. Things are going to happen. But for the most part, what I'm seeing right now in all of the live stream chats is just nothing but positivity. And people are ready for this thing to get up and running and see what these drivers have in store for us over a 60-lap sprint at Daytona tonight. 60 laps at Daytona is not going to last long as we can keep it green. So hammered down. Let's see how this thing shakes out.
Well, guys, let's talk about Daytona, right? Obviously, it's a far cry from what we saw at the short track at Nashville last time out. This 2.5 miles super speedway you mentioned, 60 laps, is hardly a marathon. It's going to be a sprint by the time these drivers are able to figure themselves out. And Jesse, of course, you've got a lot of experience here at the Daytona International Speedway, and you talk about, you know, kind of an easy decision to go for this Spring Bowl here at the World Center of Racing, since we're in the middle of speed weeks in our own right. So I'll let you talk a little bit about some of the challenges to get around Daytona, those challenges that you'll be facing again in just a couple of days.
Yeah, Daytona, some people watch it on TV and they look at it and they think, you know what? That looks pretty simple. I mean, drivers have these really long sweeping turns. They're barely turning the wheel. They're just kind of holding the throttle, full throttle. They don't got to worry about braking. They don't have to worry about this and that. But what people don't understand is unless you get on the track and you're in the draft, you truly don't understand how difficult it is to drive a super speedway. Yes, as far as handling, if you're driving by yourself, it's really not too hard. But once you get in the draft, the air is moving you around. There's a lot of different things happening. You're worrying about getting sucked up to the back of the race car in front of you. You're worrying about the air moving you around if you're in the middle of the pack. You're worrying about people checking up. You're worrying about so many different things, keeping your hands steady so that you can stay on that bottom yellow line, not go under it, but not push off too much. When you come off the corner, if your car is feeling too tight, you're going to push up into the next lane a little bit. If it's feeling loose, it's going to get a little bit snappy on you. There's all these different things that you're feeling at Daytona, at a super speedway, that you're not feeling at any other track. And then the speeds that these drivers are reaching, they're reaching 195 to 205 miles per hour, depending on where they are in the draft. So much is happening, and it's happening really, really fast. If your car gets bent out of shape, it's very difficult to save it. It's not like some of the short tracks where you can get a little bit sideways and you're good. At Daytona, you get sideways, you lose momentum. If you save it, it's actually pretty much just as bad as not saving it, because you lose momentum and everyone behind you is pulling a full head of steam ahead, and they're not lifting. They're on the gas and they're trying to make it up front, and that's when you'll start seeing the wrecks. That's when you start seeing the big one, and it happens a lot here at Daytona. I'm not sure when it's going to happen in this race. I expect for it to probably happen early because everyone's fighting to get to the front. But once things settle down, you'll start seeing strategy come into play. You'll start seeing teamwork. Everyone on here in this race, I'm pretty much sure that most of them aren't teammates in any kind of way, but some of them are going to work together to try to make it up front. But in those last final laps, people aren't going to be working together anymore. They're going to be fighting for that win. They're going to be fighting for that first place prize, which is $4,000, Sean.
Absolutely. I've seen, talk about teamwork, I've actually seen a couple folks jump into our new Discord channel. We have an eRacing Association Discord channel now. If you didn't know about that, go ahead and hop in, get yourself in there, because we've got a lot going on Discord. But I've seen chat going back and forth between racers that were in our heat race, and they had never met before, and they were literally talking about, thanks so much for working with me, really appreciate it. And two of the guys that were in the heat race on Monday night just found out that they're both from Virginia and they both race go-karts up in Virginia. So it's kind of like we're connecting people, and we're allowing them to get on track digitally, and we're allowing people to maybe get on track in the real world together too. It's awesome to see stuff like that, and that's exactly why we've set up the ERA. That's exactly what the eRacing Association is supposed to do. Let's get everybody together that loves doing this. Let's create this giant community and have a lot of fun doing what we love to do. Awesome stuff. Can't wait to get the action kicked off tonight. Really kind of humbled to be sharing the booth with all you guys, and can't wait to see where we go from here.
Well, qualifying underway right now. We're going to figure out the order into which we'll roll off for today's feature race. But let's talk a little bit more about that format and how these drivers have gotten to this point to race with all the money on the line here for the virtual Daytona International Speedway. There is, obviously 53 drivers. I think the total number that we ended up with attempting to qualify into this race, but we capped it, as you guys have touched on, at 40 drivers. So I'm looking right now. I think the difference between being in or being out was 1/1000th of a second, the difference between 40th and 41st positions. The drivers already going home, and then we'll transition into the 60-lap race for this evening. And that's something else to talk about, how unique Daytona, guys, is not in just the track itself, but how you race it, Jesse. And that goes back to the point that you made with the draft and kind of the unpredictability of super speedway racing, is this may be one of the only kind of races where somebody may actually say, you know what, I don't want to run around at the front all night. Your typical goal, go out, lead every lap, win the race. We may see some split strategies here with a big field, a shorter race, but maybe in those first 20 to 30 laps, I wouldn't be shocked if some drivers try to drop to the back just a little bit because they couldn't really intentionally qualify at the back. They needed a good time to get in through Q, but maybe drop to the back early, stay out of some of the maybe early race chaos, and then when you get to 30, maybe 20 to go, try to work their way through the field. There really isn't a one-size-fits-all strategy to best a beast like Daytona, but all these drivers are certainly going to have different strategies in mind.
Yeah, that's for sure. And strategy is going to play a lot into this race. So with it being 60 laps, it's definitely not a long race, but it's also not really a short race. You got plenty of time to make a lot of different decisions. If this thing runs green the entire time, it would end up being somewhere around maybe 40 something, 45 to 50 minutes or so, which on a simulator is kind of a while. I mean, you're in there for a while. In real life, it would feel short, but on a sim, it's actually not that it's not that long. But for the drivers, looking at their strategy and stuff and what they want to do, some of them might drop to the back. Obviously, during qualifying, they got to try their best so they can make sure they make it in the show. The top 40 only make it in. But once the race kicks off, you're going to probably see maybe a little bit of 3 wide. And maybe it's 3 wide not because they're trying to get aggressive. It's 3 wide because they're just letting those bottom 2 lanes move up ahead so they can move to the back and just kind of play their cards right in a way where they can kind of see what's happening. Let's stay out of the mess. Let's stay out of the storm. There's a lot of emotions right now. There's a lot of energy. People are wanting to fight their way up front. You don't know who you're racing against. It's not like you race against these competitors that you're racing against today on a daily basis. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you see them in other sessions on iRacing, but you don't really see these folks all the time. So you don't really know how they're going to race you. You don't know how they're going to compete against you. You don't know who's aggressive, who's not. Maybe some of the bigger names in this race, you understand how they race, but some of the other guys, this might be their first time on the big stage getting streamed online everywhere, thousands of viewers watching them. They might get a little bit antsy. We'll see how that plays into their strategy. Some are going to come in with strategy, some are not. Some have crew chiefs with them right now. Some have real spotters. Some have people coaching them right in their ear during this entire race. There's so much going on. You're going to see a lot of different strategy play out throughout the race. But at the end of the day, it's just kind of luck who's going to really take that checker flag at the end.
Well, and Sean, I know that you mentioned, I just want to say, he's talking about crew chiefs and whatnot, and you talk about the community aspect of this, right? I mean, there's drivers involved in this event tonight, aside from the 40 cars we're going to see on track. You talk about everybody in chat being involved. To Jesse's point, there's other people in the sim as spotters, as crew chiefs. So when we say sim racing community, it's not just a buzzword, it's true.
Oh, it's totally true. It's absolutely true, and that's one of the coolest things about this is we get to race with people all over the world through sim racing and basically bring together a global community that may not have ever been able to get on track together in real life, but we can get on the sim and we can race each other wherever we're at on the planet. It's absolutely amazing. And I just want to speak to the unbelievable quality of the field that we have tonight. Our producer, Tyler Maxson, just put up a stat in chat. The entire field of 40 cars in our members main event for the 2021 SpringBowl is separated by 88 one-thousandths of a second after qualifying. Think about that.
From the very top of the board to the very bottom, that is a razor-thin margin, and I mentioned it was just 1/1000th, the difference between 40th and 41st. Even those guys on pole, not that much of a difference. It is such a thin margin here at Daytona. Of course, the big draw to get all these drivers into this race against some big names in the sim racing and iRacing world on track tonight is what we are racing for here this evening in the CPM Omega Cup Series SpringBowl. Let's talk about the prizes, gentlemen. We already mentioned that there is both a non-members race and a members race happening tonight, but let's focus on the main event that we're looking at. A $5,000 purse. That winner walking away with the biggest price of them all, that $4,000, plus a Magnus watch, Jess. I know going to go real good. So there's not many sim racing events that pay out this well for just one race. Top 5 all walking away with something. That's a big difference between being the winner and being the runner-up.
That is for sure. And yeah, there's not a lot of events out there that are giving away big prize money. There are some out there. We're not the only one. But what we wanted to do when we created the eRacing Association was create an opportunity for sim racers from the grassroots level to be able to jump into an event and not feel like, hey, I don't belong because I'm not like an iRacing pro or something like that. We wanted to create something where at any given event, any given person, as long as they're good enough, can qualify their way in and have a chance to win some big prize money. And this prize money here can really change some people's lives. We've seen some people online, writing different comments on some of our posts saying, you know what, man, if I won some of that money, if I ended up winning some of that prize pool, I would take it and buy a go-kart or pay for a Legends car or pay for the rest of my late model. And now they're turning this simulation virtual racing prize money into what they can use to actually get into a real life race car. And that's what we love. That's what we want this thing to be about. We want people to come in, drive, race for money, fight, compete, get broadcasted, get some fame out of it, get some publicity, and at the same time, hopefully maybe launch a real life racing career. I know my racing career pretty much started in iRacing. I spent 3-4 months learning as much as I could on iRacing, and then from there transitioned into a late model, from a late model into the NASCAR K&N series, and then the ARCA series, and then the Truck series, and now the Xfinity series. But it all started in iRacing. I didn't know what I was doing until I jumped on iRacing, learned on here. After a few months, I was like, you know what? It's time to jump into a real race car, strap up, and make it happen, Sean.
Absolutely. Everything you just said. I'm sitting here trying to get as much taken care of in the chat and the live stream chats. Like I said earlier, 3 different services up and running. The eRacing Association's Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook pages. I'm manning all of those and trying to chime in here. And just a quick anecdote before we go into the racing. Did see one gentleman actually said that he did not make it to the final because his spotter left to go get a burrito. These are the things that can happen during sim races. That's unbelievable. And he's not even mad. He's like, I would have done the same thing. So we're having fun, man. This is going to be a great evening of racing. If you've got a burrito, eat a burrito. Have a good time.
And save it to the green flag so you're ready to go in time when this thing gets underway. For those who are the non-ERA members, you can see the prizes that they are also racing for this evening. $250 Amazon gift card to the race winner. That'll pay out through the top 3. And as we wait for this one to get underway, again, I think that goes to show you, nice prizes. You definitely want to be a member, and in order to find out more information on that, you can go to eragaming.gg for more information. No, you touched on it off at the top, Jesse, but I'll go back to you on this one, of course. You talk about trying to put on these big events in the sim community, and the eRacing Association, still relatively, I'd say, a new face on the block, but we already had the wildly successful Winter Bowl back in December. I already touched on how exciting that result was for the virtual Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. As this continues to build into 2021, you talked about all the positive feedback from the community, from the drivers. I mean, what is kind of the mission statement, if you would, about this series, and what's the future of the ERA look like?
Well, our mission statement mainly is this. We want to take the average Joe who's at home, who has a simulator, and we want to make them feel like a pro. That's our mission right there. And we want to be able to provide this opportunity to everybody, even if you don't have a simulator. We want to have you watch these events, see it, get inspired, get motivated, find a way to save up some money in that piggy bank, scrounge up some money. I don't know, whatever you have to do. Work extra hours, maybe ask your mom or dad for some extra change. Go get a sim, get a steering wheel. There's all different kind of ways you can get into simulator racing. You don't have to spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on the most mega and best sim rig. You can spend as little as, $400 or $500 and have something that you can use to get in. And then, you can start working on your skills, working on how to race, working on your racecraft, get better, and then eventually enter some of these events and compete. Maybe the first time you don't make it to the main event, it's all good. Try again the next event, and the next, and the next. At the end of the day, you have the opportunity at each event to come in and give yourself a chance to actually make it to the main event and potentially race for some really big prize money. But that's what we want to do. We want to create that opportunity for everybody to compete.
And qualifying, by the way, is now official. 40 drivers ready to rock and roll. We'll be going down trackside in just a few minutes to get this 60-lap, 150-mile race from Daytona International Speedway underway, under the lights as well. I know that it does not make that much of a difference. Daytona isn't a track really where you have to worry too much about the track temps and whatnot. I know typically concerns for handling are more so, for the July race typically than the Daytona 500, and daytime versus nighttime racing maybe has a little bit more of an effect in an intermediate or a short track than it does here on the high banks of Daytona. I've just always thought if a racetrack's got lights, let's use them. There is always something different about racing under the lights, and a good opportunity to remind everybody that coverage of tonight's race brought to you by Equity Prime Mortgage. Their management team has over 50 years of experience in the mortgage industry, providing exceptional pricing without compromising follow-through or customer service. To learn more information, go to equityprime.com for more information. You talk about, Jesse, the point that there's not a lot of teams, right? This isn't a series where they run every week and you got 4 or 5 car teams. That's normally a huge element of racing at a super speedway like Daytona. I'm picking up on a couple of duos that I think I'm going to be watching for in this one, but this is going to be a challenge of learning how these guys around you drive that you're not necessarily used to. That's a challenge on any given racetrack, but especially here, it'll be interesting to see if guys are timid off of the bat, who's going to kind of assert themselves as the more aggressive, the more laid back type, and maybe where those groupings come from, because you need help at some point. Now, down the line, at the end of the race, whatever relationship is made is going to be fractured, but at some point we'll see some drivers hook up together, and it'll be fun to see how that plays out as well, strategy-wise.
Yeah, it'll be pretty fun to see basically what they do, because some of these guys are going to team up a little bit throughout the race. They're going to communicate using their headsets. Most of these drivers have headsets on, so they have some way of communicating with the field. And you'll hear some of them talking. You're not going to hear it on the broadcast, but if you were in the race, you'd hear everyone talking to each other saying, hey, let's hook up here, push me here, push me there. And some people are going to work together, some aren't. Some people are going to try to make it happen, and some people are going to be like, no, I'm not your friend today. I don't care what you want. I'm going to be selfish. I'm going to make it up front myself. But the thing here at Daytona is you can't do it by yourself. You need help. You can't just get out of line and slingshot your way all the way up front. It's just not going to happen. You get out of line and you don't have help, you are moving to the back. You're going to go from 5th to 15th within seconds. It just happens that quick at Daytona. So you do need a friend, and you're going to need quite a few friends throughout the race.
You can see cars are on track now for the final couple of minutes of warm-up, and then we are going to go racing here from the Daytona International Speedway. We're happy that you're with us on Race Spot TV. Let's go down trackside for tonight's opening ceremonies and the performance of our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
And now we go down to pit road for tonight's command and the most famous words in motorsports.
Jason Callan here, Chief Operating Officer at EPM. I want to welcome everyone to the EPM Omega Cup Spring Bowl presented by our friends at the eRacing Association. I am privileged to get to say the most famous words in motorsports. Drivers, start your engines.
Let's go trackside. Take a look at tonight's starting grid. Cars are fired. Pole position for this one goes to the 04 of Matthew Lee. His 47.441, the best of them all, and he'll bring us to the green flag tonight alongside the number 50 of Jared Torres. Ben Horst and Colin Keister going to make up row 2. They'll start in 3rd and 4th position, respectively, with Blake Adair in 5th and Jackson Crowder to the outside of row 3 in position number 6. Clayton Davis will start from 7th position. That'll be alongside Colt Cook at 8th. You've got Hunter O. Johnson in 9th, Jesse, and David Pollins rounds out your top 10. Continuing on through, I see Christopher Tate there in 11th and Garrett Conrath in the number 12 spot. Behind him, more familiar faces, Daniel Eberhardt and Roger Buff Sr., 13th and 14th. Brady Pope will start 15th out of the big name, and Alex A. Bergeron will roll from the number 16 spot on the grid. There he is there, along with Jason Malowan in 17th position, and you've also got Timmy Holmes in 18th. Cole Johnson will start from 19th spot. Cody Smith is 20th, and that is the halfway point in this field. Derek Fulton starts 21st. You got Russell Bratka in 22nd position. Behind them, doubled up at row 12, the number 3 of Michael Sturgill and Reed Christensen in 24th. Guillaume Henselt starts 25th. Rhett Tucker alongside P26 with Brad Patton, Dylan C. Jones 27th and 28th. Kyle Vallejos and Brian Swafford, your top 30. Eddie Morris will start 31st. Scott Fritz in 32nd. Clinton DeCastleberry 33rd, and Michael Witt in 34th position, with Finn Robinson and Justin Combs through your top 36. And for the back 2 rows on the grid, Bradley Goodman will start 37th with James E. Anderson, Michael D. Johnson, and Christopher Reagan, top to bottom, 1st through 40th position. Reagan's 47.525, the last time to make it in on qualifying. So we get set for a 60-lap, 150-mile dash from the World Center of Racing. I know that it's ideal to start up front in theory, Jesse. Where would you be the most comfortable, maybe to the opposite point, the most uncomfortable starting this race?
If I'm starting this race, honestly, I want to be in the top 4 or I want to be in the very back. I don't want to be anywhere else. If you're in the middle of this pack, you are in the eye of the storm. You have nowhere to go. You can't go back. You can't go forward. You're just stuck. If people check up, you don't even know when it's going to happen. You almost get into the back of people. When I was racing at Daytona in the ARCA series just a couple years ago, I was stuck in the middle of the pack sitting at 20th. Somebody checked up. Next thing you know, I put a hole in my oil cooler. And that's just what happens when you're in the middle of the pack. You're in the eye of the storm, and you just don't know what's going to happen. You're kind of stuck in a sandwich. So honestly, I would rather be up front or in the very back, and that's it.
And one, I guess, positive, talking about sim racing, guys, is that they will have one quick repair available should they need to use it. So if the car gets damaged they can come down pit road and basically get a brand new race car off the trailer with a push of a button. I'm sure that would really come in handy at the track on the weekends. Probably one of the best parts about sim racing. You junk the car, it doesn't come out of your wallet. Now, if they use up their one quick repair, then they'll be in a situation where if somebody gets a little bit more damage, Jesse, they'll have to try to manage that damage over the course of the race. So the simple answer, keep the car clean early. Get to the end of the race. It goes to what you said right at the very start of the race, that you need to get to the end to be in this competition, and we will see if these drivers heed that advice with Big Check hanging in front of them.
In order to finish first, you must first finish, and that's what these drivers have to keep in mind as they're rolling around at Daytona. Yeah, damage is not good. It's going to affect the aero, and at a track like this, the aero is very important. When we're at Nashville, you can junk up the front of the car, the side of the car, the rear of the car, and you can still make it around. But at Daytona, if you junk up the front, your aero is gone. You don't have the same amount of speed anymore. So you got to make sure that you keep that car clean in order to be competitive all throughout this race.
There's a good look at the cars on the high banks of Daytona. Going to get set to go green, I believe, the next time through for this one. And again, I'm just kind of taking a look at all of the different drivers and paint schemes and whatnot. And You can see all of the big team affiliated names. Obviously, Colin Keister name that jumps out for the outside of row number 2 as a driver to watch for. But we will have a first-time ERA main event winner because Parker Retzlaff, your winner from Nashville, not in competition this evening. So we'll have a first-time winner. So if somebody wants to add their name to the record books here in the eRacing Association, as the lights on top of the iRacing.com pace truck go out for the time being. Lee and Torres going to have the best view out of all of them, but that is a lot of virtual race cars. And we talk about the duality of 60 laps being a short race by Daytona standards, Jesse, to the counterpoint. That's still, as you mentioned, if it goes green, about 50 minutes of racing. So a lot can still happen. Where do we see maybe the point in this race switch? Is it going to be halfway maybe when we get a pit stop under our belts? Or do we get kind of in that home stretch where, the guys in 30th are going to start to think, all right, if I want to win this race, I have to move? I mean, where is that balance? If you were behind the wheel, maybe, how long are these guys going to play it safe? And kind of when is that point where you flip the switch and you go for the win?
Honestly, I believe that point is really about 20 laps to go. At 10, it's a little too late to make your way up front if you are way in the back. But at the 20-lap point, you can actually go from somewhere in the 30th place range all the way up front. I actually tested it out the other day, battling against the AI on iRacing to see, hey, how can I do in 20 laps if I just start in the very back? And I started pretty much on the last row and made it all the way up front against the AI turned up pretty good. And it took me a good solid 20 laps to actually make it up front. So that's with everyone playing along, though. That's the key. People have to play along.
Yeah, and they don't always like to play nice, so that's going to be the biggest thing I think that we're going to look out for. We saw some tempers and some contact in the Winter Bowl at Nashville. Going to be a different kind, but it's always going to be present here in this one. The pace truck going to dive down to the safety of the pit lane, and the field is in the hands of the 04 machine of Matthew T. Lee as we say, let's go racing from Daytona.
Green, 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 green. You can already see right here, they're still staying double file, but that third row, somebody peeked out a little bit thinking someone was going to come with them, but nope, no one did. Everyone's wanting to stay that double file all the way through. They're wanting to stay a little bit patient. I don't see anybody getting too aggressive. They're getting a little bit close and wanting to bump just a little bit, but I don't see a lot of aggression just yet, but we'll see if that changes here in a couple laps.
Pretty impressed with how strong the outside stays. The inside got about 2-3 car lengths early on, but first time by the start-finish line, the advantage will go to the outside. First lap led in favor of Jared Torres in that 50 car.
And that's the thing with Daytona. I mean, he just led that lap, but the thing is, here on this very next lap, he could fall back to 5th place. He could fall back to 7th. You just don't know. It depends on what the lines are doing. Everyone's moving around. People are changing lanes. You're going to have one lane that's strong and one lane that's not, but that could easily change within a lap. You just don't know. You can't just expect that, hey, I'm good. I'm in the lead. I got this whole thing. Everything's all good. Things change. Times change. People will move out of the line. Your line will get weaker. When that line gets weaker, you and that whole lane is falling back. And we see somebody get a little bit bent out of shape right there, going under the yellow line.
That was Blake Neer in the 10 car. He got a little bit loose off of turn number 4 and actually slid up and into the door of Jackson Crowder. Now a caution flag will fly, and I believe it's for an issue behind your race leaders. Brody Pope, I saw, drop way down the running order. So it may have involved the 24 Chevrolet. You can see your race leaders survived a bit of near calamity, but I think this happened just behind them with a little bit of an accordion effect, where once you have that checkup, everybody else is going to have to respond. Let's take a second look at the replay. You can see all the shuffling up at the front of the field. We saw that, and behind them, right there, the 24 comes up, comes back down, and that is a huge hit into the inside pit wall there, and that's basically going to guarantee that Bodie Prope's going to have to burn a fast repair because that engine is smoking, and an early caution here from Daytona.
early caution, and we knew something like this was going to happen. At first, in the first few laps, people did look like they were going to play along a little bit. They looked like they were going to stay somewhat calm, make a few moves here and there, but nothing too crazy aggressive. But all it takes is one little mistake. When you're in that draft, when you're behind all those cars, it's very difficult to see ahead of you. All you can really see is a rear spoiler of the car ahead of you, and maybe the cage inside of it or something like that. You can't really see much. So as you're behind them, your vision starts getting somewhat impaired. You start getting a little dizzy because cars are moving around in a weird way, and just the motion and how it's all working, it almost like gets you a little bit dizzy. So then you see people start moving around a lot. Next thing you know, a little bit too much movement, and you're below yellow line. And when you get down there and you come back up, it doesn't ever end up well.
You got to rely on being very, very fine and precise. You step up half a foot, and in the sim, of course, you can't feel the car underneath you. So if your car's kind of waddling a little bit up and down the racetrack in the corners, it's all based on your visuals, and that's where we talk about the different kinds of sims you can have and how little or how much you want to spend can come into play. Some drivers maybe with VR goggles or triple monitors can have the ability to actually look to their left and look to the right. That's, I think, going to come in handy in a race like this when you're going to be 2, if not 3 wide at many points. But of course, an early yellow slows things down. That, in theory, only hurts the drivers towards the rear of the field because it's going to take about 4 laps or so out of this 60-lap contest. Less time under green, less time for them to have the ability to actually get up and through the field and to make some moves. But Matthew Lee not complaining about that because he had lost the race lead, guys, right off of the stop. We saw Jared Torres go to the point, but right before the yellow, the 04 stepped back up out of line from the bottom, went to the outside, got a push, and he will be the control car when this race restarts. It's going to be hard to miss that bright green 04 Toyota Camry up at the very front of the running order. But, that's going to be a thing that happens all night. We're likely going to see maybe a half dozen, maybe a dozen different race leaders, even more different lead changes over the course of the night. Let's take a second look now at kind of what started all the chaos. I know I caught the issue with the 10 of Blakeney. Right there is when he slid up, went down to the apron. Jesse came back up on the 12, and they saved it. Thought we were good. It was the accordion behind that right there that actually caused the yellow, but that could have certainly been a lot worse when a car instead of the top 5 is out of control like that.
And yeah, that accordion effect, that's going to be the thing that we're going to see a lot today. So you're going to see people get a little bit out of shape. Something's going to happen. They're going to get bumped. They're going to get a little bit sideways. All of a sudden, they lose that momentum. Once you lose that momentum, it creates this accordion effect and domino effect where right behind them, people are now having to move out of the way. They're trying to avoid this issue. They're trying not to hit whoever is slowing down the momentum. But while doing that, they end up hitting other people. They turn other people sideways. People get wrecked on accident just because of one little incident that happened up front. If something happens up front, it causes a chain reaction throughout the whole field. And maybe the guys up front aren't going to feel it, but the ones in the back, they're the ones suffering from one little mistake that someone up front made.
Going to be tricky as well for this ensuing restart. Race leader going to be able to control this one and get this race back underway when he wants. Going to be tough to time it towards the rear of the field, and you can really get yourself strung out. Oftentimes, big super speedway fields like this aren't going to stay in a 40-car lead. At some point, it fractures off into a secondary pack, and you don't want to be maybe the first car in the second pack. I think you'd rather be the last car in the lead pack. So maybe you're far enough away to stay away from some of the chaos, like we saw, all things considered, for how far up in the running order that kind of all broke out. Impressive that it was really only the number 24 machine of Brody Pope who had issues with that hard bit of damage and crashed into the inside wall. He has taken his car, by the way, down pit road and gotten his quick repair. So he's got a brand new race car. He's good to go for the rest of the race, but any damage he gets from this point on, that car's going to have to take to the end. But certainly could have been a lot worse. I think we got away with one there with an early yellow in this race. But the lights on top of the pace truck are out. Matthew Lee on the front row alongside Jared Torres. No changes there on the back. Only big mover I see, Alex Bergeron started 16th in this race. He's already up to P9 on the inside of run number 5. So that could be a driver looking to make moves early in this one. Pace car going to dive down. Let's see what Matthew Lee can do. He's the control car as we head to the EPM restart zone.
the views at Daytona are also amazing. It's great seeing these cars on track in the sim, and for the viewers at home, they turn this on, they see it, and they're like, is this real life? Is the Daytona 500 happening right now? Did I miss something? No, you didn't. You're watching iRacing. You're watching the eRacing Association. The camera angles, the visuals, the graphics on these cars, the way the camera is shaking, the rumbling, the sounds, it all looks realistic, and that's what I love about this simulator. We're providing a somewhat realistic environment without being in the real race car and putting yourself in that real life type of danger, but they're having fun on the sim. And it's really cool to always see all the lights flashing in the crowd. It reminds me of the old cameras and that people used to bring to the track, and during the restarts they would, take a lot of pictures. Nowadays everyone has camera phones and they don't use flash that much anymore, so I miss that aspect of it.
Yeah, that's one cool visual that's lost, all the flash bulbs coming off as the field goes through the front straightaway tri-oval. And even though it is virtual, love listening to the sounds of the engines on the Daytona high banks. We're staying 2x2. One driver going to drop way back to the rear. That was at number 13 at Clayton Davis. That was an all-white Ford you saw drop backwards. He qualified towards the front of the field, but obviously does not want to be in the side-by-side that's happening now. He went to a third lane, intentionally fell to the back. Matthew Lee, the 04 car on the bottom, led the last time by, but Colin Keister now pushed by Jared Torres, going to make a challenge for the lead at a turn 2.
These guys are battling it out, but they're keeping it pretty clean. They're not getting crazy, even though I see a little bit of contact happening up front right now. That contact is okay in the straights, but it's not okay in the corners. If you start pressing on someone's rear bumper in the corners, you're going to get them loose. When they get loose, they have no choice but to lift. When they lift, you are killing that momentum. When you kill that momentum, you cause that chain reaction. When you cause a chain reaction, you cause wrecks. So that's what happens when you get on that bumper. You've got to be careful. In real life, when we're racing in real life at these tracks, the officials tell us, hey, if we see you locking bumpers, especially going into a corner, we are going to black flag you. That happens in real life because they know the chain reaction that occurs after locking bumpers, especially going into a corner.
A little bit of a bobble there by the inside line. This could give an advantage to Keister up high. He's almost all the way clear at about 204 miles an hour. He'll slide down to the bottom. And a new race leader at lap number 10. It is the 17 of Colin Keister. So he now goes to the lead. And now it is a very different position for Matthew Lee, who's going to have to be a pusher. And the driver who was the pusher up top, Jared Torres, has an opportunity to go to the lead if he can get a little bit of help from the 52 of Ben Horst just behind. Not everybody wanting to be 2x2. This goes all the way, I think, through your top 20 or so. The last time by your top 20 cars separated by just 0.9 of a second. But we are seeing some drivers towards the back, single file out, if not kind of start the trail off a little bit. Not everybody thinks this is how hard you need to be racing at lap number 11 of 60, but I promise you it's entertaining as we see this lead pack up at full speed.
I love how clean they're racing, keeping it side by side. Anytime you can have side-by-side racing at Daytona, going through the corners, one, the visual looks amazing, but two, it's cool to watch. And it's cool to see the skill of these drivers. The reason why they're able to stay side by side, lap after lap after lap, is because these drivers are the best on the sim, competing against each other. And some of them, maybe some of them are potential iRacing pros, some of them aren't, maybe some of them could be, who knows. But these guys are pretty skilled. I mean, we saw it in qualifying. We saw how close qualifying was. I mean, everyone in this field, they have a lot of skill. They've been practicing for a very long time. They know what they're doing. They know how to have some bit of patience for the most part. As we're seeing, they're, for the most part, staying pretty calm. But it's that skill that's driving this race, and it's very, very entertaining to watch, especially on these super speedways.
I like
you can see
some bit of
with that
patience
04. Yeah, I just want to mention the 04 moved up to the outside. So Matthew Lee doesn't want to be that patient, Sean, because if he wanted to, he could have just stayed on the bottom, right, and rode around behind Colin Keister. Instead, he moves up to the outside. He clearly wants to go out and lead every lap. He wants that lead back.
Yeah, you've got these guys out there. And I really was kind of hoping that early yellow would calm them down. Like Jesse was just saying, though, I mean, they're running nose to tail too wide all the way around this track. Everybody has their eyes basically already on lap 59 and 60 and $4,000 to bring home that checkered flag. So I don't think we're going to see him calm down, but having said that, it is pretty awesome to see them snaking around too wide like that, and for the most part, running pretty clean. It's pretty awesome to watch this. And I was thinking that white Ford that pulled out there and got in that third line up high, sunk to the back, I was thinking that they did the right thing. But now that we're sitting here getting ready to start working lap 15, I might have been wrong. I mean, maybe you do want to be up front for this because it is a sprint race. So get out there and keep digging and see what happens. See if you can keep it up, in P1.
And we set it off at the top, Jesse. There is no one strategy that solves all. As somebody is a little bit out of shape, that was Cole Johnson. I saw a puff of smoke after I think he clipped the apron going into turn number 3, but there is no yellow. We stay green. There's him all the way at the back. He was 19th last time by. He'll drop to 32nd, 33rd spot, so he lost a ton of time of the quick bobble. I mean, that's how quickly it can happen. Oh, and up at the race lead, the 04 lead is going to get turned, and it is a huge one on the back straightaway with the race leaders.
Oh, my goodness. The big one, and we knew it was going to happen, and they were racing pretty clean, so I started thinking, you know what, the big one's not going to happen right now. All of a sudden, it just took one instance. Let's go to the replay. Let's see what happened. That was crazy.
And I just said, no more than a few seconds before, that's how quickly it can happen, referring to the near miss we saw with the number 32 car, and then it happens at the very front of the field. And I think the 17, Colin Keister, who will cycle through to the race lead now by avoiding the brunt of that impact, is where this started. Jesse, you were talking about those drivers locking bumpers and pushing. I think the 17 might have got a little bit too friendly with the left rear of that 04 up front.
And that's the issue that happens. So when you lock bumpers and you start pushing them, if you're on the straightaway and you're directly behind the car in front of you, you're pushing them, it's okay as long as you didn't give them a good shove, because if you give them a shove, it gets them a little squirrely, it lifts them up in the air. But if you get on their bumper and you start moving around and then now you clip the left rear or the right rear of the car, you're going to cause an issue. And I think that's what happened right there. He got on that left rear, clipped them, got on the right rear, clipped them again, got a little bit too crazy, and now we see cars flipping. Jared Torres was doing so well, and now he goes airborne.
Nothing he could have done, just riding on the outside. Next thing he knows, he has a windshield full of the 04 of Lee, and your top 2 cars in qualifying destroyed at lap number 15. Let's ride on board with Keister, see what happened.
See right here, lock in just a little bit, then all of a sudden he gets on the inside, then the outside. You'll see it right here.
And I heard him feather the throttle a little bit, so he wasn't trying to go through him. He was trying to help Lee, but the intentions don't really matter, Jesse, if that is the end result.
You can't do it in the corners. Like I said before, you can only do it on the straights. That's why NASCAR gets on us very hard in real life. They tell us, hey, if we see you doing that in the corners, we're going to black flag you. You just do it in the corners, you're going to turn somebody. You got to wait to the straight. The bumping doesn't work in the corners. It causes wrecks. And like we saw just right here from that view and that camera angle, it caused the wreck.
So a lot of drivers on pit road.
YouTube chat right now. We have a little bit of some blame being thrown at one of our viewers, Mr. Pete Panaya. He happens to be my partner at Nemesis Lab. Pete was like, "Oh, it's getting exciting. This is great racing." And right about then, I said, "Agreed. They're rolling. This is awesome." And then chaos. So commentators curse and live stream chat curse is what's going down here tonight.
I'm happy to blame him for it instead of me, because I've had my fair share of those over the time. And we saw all of the drivers involved in that incident come down to the pit road to get some damage repaired. But we are very close to being just inside of the fuel window. I know that some of the drivers were talking about 38 laps or so. We're still outside of that number now, but a lot of drivers who were not involved in the incident did decide to come down pit road and get service. So some of them may feel like, Jesse, that even though we're outside of the window now, if they get fuel and maybe decide not to pit on some later yellows, they can save enough to get to the end. One thing you always have to be aware of in any race, but especially a race like this, though, is the possibility that if we go to overtime, you're going to need more fuel to just lap number 60 like on the schedule, but maybe some drivers wanting to mix things up just a little bit with the strategy calls.
Yeah, strategy when it comes to fuel and your pit stops is big, because here at Daytona, everyone's fueling is going to be a little bit different. When you're up front and you're just diving through the air like that, you have a little bit more wind resistance than everyone else. When you're in the draft and you're getting to feather the throttle a lot, well, you're not using as much fuel. So just because you ran the same amount of laps as someone else doesn't mean you still have the same amount of fuel. If I was drafting the whole time and having to just stay light on the throttle and kind of get in and out of it, well, maybe I saved a little bit more fuel than the person who had to stay wide open the entire time. So the strategies, it's tough to look at everyone else and see what they're doing, because you just don't know what they were doing with the throttle. It's not like another track where the draft really doesn't matter. At this particular track, it really affects the fuel mileage, usage, all that stuff. So it's very difficult. And we have some people who have crew chiefs with them who are advising them on what's going on. When you have to be the driver, the crew chief, and the spotter all at once, it's a little bit difficult to think through this stuff. But when you have someone helping you, they can make some calculated decisions to help get you up front.
I think it's always helpful when you've got somebody else pushing the button, so you can worry about what's happening on track, and you can let them make some of those strategy decisions. So your new race leader through all of this chaos is Hunter O. Johnson. The first car who pitted is Michael Sturgill, who's back in 6th for the restart. Most of the cars who pitted going to be 9th on the back behind Reed Christensen. So about 8 or so drivers decided not to pit. It includes Johnson, Vallejos, Bratka, and Swafford. All of your drivers inside of the top 4. Pace car in through the EPM restart zone. Green flag flies. We're back underway.
Seeing a bunch of movement early. This is what we were going to see. As you can see, when we had the other group of drivers up front, they were a lot more calm. Now we have a fresh new set of drivers up front, different driving style, different amount of patience. What's going to happen next?
I'm sitting here wondering actually how this is going to affect race strategy. Who's already burnt that one quick repair? You know, who's already had to use it? Or are there some people out there that kind of, you know, maybe they got a little bit of damage in the first and second caution, and they're sitting on that damage and thinking that, you know, they'll use that quick repair under a green flag. I don't know. I really don't know. But that is an added level of strategy that these guys and gals do. We have any gals in the field tonight? I'm not even sure. I hope we do. But that's an added level of strategy they're going to have to deal with. And as I say that, they go 3 wide. We're not even halfway done with this thing, and they're 3 wide. The top line is forming.
Alex Bergeron in the 34 machine. He is working with the number 10 of Blake Neer. Oh, and they're going to touch, and it's going to fall apart. It's wrecking. Kyle Vallejos who got into him. And again, it's a mess out of turn 2.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. And this is exactly what I thought was going to happen. So we had our first group of drivers up front, very calm, very chill, a lot of experience, a lot of patience. All of a sudden, when things got shuffled up, we have a different group of drivers up front. Sometimes it makes them antsy. When they get antsy, they start pushing, they start shoving, they start moving around. As you can see, there were 3 wide, and then they got into each other, and they started wrecking. Is there a lot of damage? Some cars took a lot of damage. Some took a lot more than others. But now what's going to happen? Do they still have a quick fix? I don't know. We'll find out.
You beat me to it. That's my concern. Now we're going to get to the point where you may have already been in an incident. You may have already burned your one available quick fix, and now you're going to be forced to ride with the damage on that car. And again, you can go 3 wide at Daytona, but I mean, in super speedway terms, Jesse, this track's so much tighter than a place like a Talladega that it is a little bit more gutsy than it would be if we were there.
That is true. At Daytona, you can go 3 wide. But it takes a lot of skill and a lot of patience. If everyone just stays patient, you can run 3 wide all race. But what happens is no one's patient. They're going 3 wide for a reason. They want to make it up front. They want to see what they can do to move their lane up front. People start moving around a lot. People start pushing. They start shoving. They get a little bit tight. They get into the wall. Whatever it is, there's so much that's happening. Whereas if you go to like a Talladega, you got room to go 5 wide. So 3 wide is nothing but a thing.
Here's another look at the incident. You can see those 2 cars up on the outside. The 35 comes up, and I don't know if it was a bit of a squeeze by Vallejos or if it was those cars on the outside coming down. But either way, that middle and the outside lane met. There was a small touch. And the big loser in that was the 35, who split across the track and took out about 6 other competitors. And, you know, that's going to be the end of the night for maybe some. You see the 10 machine involved in that one. The 34 drives through it, but does pick up some damage for Alex Bergeron, who was one of the drivers up on the outside. Bergeron is on pit road now using his quick repair. And we talked about some drivers topping off on fuel. We're that much closer to the window. So I'd say a majority of your field in this time for more service.
Yeah, most people heading in to get a little bit of service, get some fuel, get some tires. But this is now shaking things up a lot because we're still somewhat early in this race, and now people had to use strategy that they didn't want to use this early. They wanted to wait a little bit longer. They wanted to see how things are going to play out. Now the race has forced their hand. The circumstances has forced their hand, and it didn't force everyone's hand. It just forced some people's hands. So what are they going to do now? How does this change things up? Is there a crew chief right there with you to kind of guide you through it, to say, hey, it's okay, we're going to be all right? Not everyone has that luxury, but it's going to take a lot of thinking to figure out what you got to do next to stay in this and stay in the hunt to try to win this race. And I'm sure the fans are probably talking a lot right now. They're probably chatting, saying, hey, it was this fault. Oh, you took out my driver. Sean, what are you seeing right now in the chat? What are people saying? What are the fans thinking right now?
Well, we had one fan, Corey White, actually blamed that last one on Kyle Busch, which, you know, I don't know whether you can or can't do that, but it was thrown out there in chat. So Kyle Busch was blamed for the last yellow. You know, I said 4K's on the line, things are getting crazy, and that's basically the sentiment in the chat. You know, it's 4K's on the line. That's not your normal one race payout for a sim racing event. We're doing that here at the eRacing Association. And, yeah, things are getting crazy. So we've got a Kyle Busch blamed, Bill Gates blamed. That was actually me that blamed Bill Gates, just because it's Windows-based. iRacing is Windows-based, so you kind of have to go that direction. We're having some fun in the chat, man. Everybody is enjoying what they're seeing so far. What I'm wondering, though, is now we've had a vast majority of the field involved in at least one incident. Damage has been done to a large portion of these race cars. Who has burned that quick repair? Will that calm them down until we get down to about 10 to go? Or are they just going to be going after it the whole time? It's a wait and see thing. No matter what, it's going to be exciting. There's no doubt about that.
We stressed early on tonight how important qualifying was. That it was because of the 53 drivers who attempted to qualify. You needed to be in the top 40 to make the show, but clearly it's not the end-all be-all, because there is only 2 drivers right now actually running inside of the top 10 who started in the top 10, including somebody like a James Anderson, who rolled from 38th on the grid. That'll be on the inside of run number 3 and 5th for this ensuing restart. And some new faces at the very front of the field. The number 11 of Russell Brotka going to bring us to the green, alongside the number 5 of Justin Combs to the outside. They both started 22nd and 36th, respectively, so they have been big movers thus far. Pace car in this time, 3rd restart of the night, to the EPM restart zone for Russell Brotka to take the green flag.
Got a new group of drivers up front. Everyone's trying to sniff each other out right now. They're trying to figure out, okay, who's going to move, who's going to play a little bit of chicken, who's going to be a little bit bold, who's going to, you know, touch, who's going to push around, who's going to do what. That's what happens when people get shuffled around. You get a new set of drivers up front. They have a different strategy. They have different motives. They have different emotions. And right now we're already seeing 3 wide, you know, right on the first lap after this restart. But it doesn't look like anybody really wants to help the fellow up top.
That was Justin Combs, who restarted on the outside of the front row, but I wonder if he was implementing that strategy we saw earlier in this race by Clayton Davis, where he does not want to be up here because he went up to the 3rd lane on his own. So either he's intentionally dropping back or he lost his rear view mirror and was hoping that there was going to be help up there. He is going all the way to the rear of this lead pack, and that opens up the door for Colin Keister. The 17 was just up here, involved in an incident. Now he's back to the battle for the race lead, side by side right now with the 11 of Brotka.
I love side-by-side racing. It's great to see that everyone's just staying competitive the entire time. They're not even a single file line. They're not doing any of that. They're just like, you know what, we're going to stay side by side. We're going to keep 2 lanes at least moving up. Maybe try a 3rd lane here and there, but it's interesting just to see these battles happening. And right now, it looks like for the most part, people are staying a little bit clean. There's a lot more movement than I would like if I was your driver sitting up there. I think people should fall in line a little bit more. You still got 34 laps to go. No need to make any rash decisions right now because you could take yourself out of the race, especially with your positioning of the car against the car in front of you.
We've already seen how easy it is to step out of line a little bit and be involved in an incident. A couple of yellows early, but at the moment, Brotka leads. Here comes a challenge to the outside by Finn Robinson. Just shy of halfway from Daytona, you're watching the EPM Omega Cup Series on RaceSpot TV. And back live at the virtual Daytona International Speedway. Coverage of tonight's race brought to you by Equity Prime Mortgage. Their management team has over 50 years of experience in the mortgage industry, providing exceptional pricing without compromising follow-through or customer service. To learn more, visit equityprime.com. We're happy that you're with us on RaceSpot TV. Our coverage of the EPM Omega Cup Series Spring Bowl continuing for the virtual Daytona International Speedway. Evan Pasoka, Jesse Awuji, Sean Yoder up top with you. And it is currently Finn Robinson at the top of the scoring pylon. Made that move to the outside as we stepped away into it side by side. He leads, but for how long, Jesse? The 3-watt is back and a spinner.
And they're getting a little sideways.
Johnson in the grass. He hangs on. Every time you think you have a moment to catch your breath, you do it again.
He's trying to get back on track with that banking. That banking. You don't want to do that. That banking, 30-something degrees of banking. If you're going from the apron onto the track, that will get you sideways, especially if you got some speed going into it.
Literally no fear involved with junking cars from anyone right now. It's just we're right at the halfway point, and they've sent it from the drop of the green flag. They're taking the term "send it" a little too seriously. We've got half a race left to run, guys. Calm down a little bit. Let's drop in line and get some laps run, and then get crazy towards the end. It's exciting though. I'll give it that.
Right side of our screens, the replay of what happened right there. The bit of loss of control for that 32 falling off to the inside of Cole Johnson. And then here's the second part where he couldn't really get it woed down enough and just about split it again. That is not a friendly transition from the flat of the apron to that 3 stories of banking down in the corners, but we survive it for the moment. Up on the outside, the 541 of Jackson Crowder being pushed right now. I believe that's by the number 68 or the 88 up on the outside of it. Maybe the 33 of David Pollins. Hard to tell as they're all under the lights here at Daytona. I think that's Pollins working with him up top. 2 cars is enough for them to hang there, Jesse, but I would imagine if they want that lane to be stronger, they want some more help.
you definitely want help, that's for sure. You're going to need at least 3 or 4 cars to get any kind of movement. When one car moves up there, you're screwed. When you have a buddy, it might help if you got a good run, but it's not going to help a lot, because what's going to happen is a lane below you is going to close the gap that you just left. Now you don't have any way of getting back in, at least at the spot that you just left. And then eventually you're going to lose a little bit of steam when you go in a corner, and you're going to lose that momentum. So if you decide to go all the way to the top and make that third lane, you're going to need a group of cars. You're going to need at least 3 or 4 cars to get up there to push you up for it and get that lane moving however you can make it happen. But 1 or 2, it's just not enough.
Yeah, that was really apparent. Jackson's out there on the top. He was out there all alone for about a lap and a half, and we saw him drop back, 4, 5, 6 spots there in a lap and a half, and that's just, you cannot run. You can't run the third line without, like you said, 4 or 5 cars to begin with, but if you're out there on your own, you have a one-way ticket to the back of the pack, basically.
And that third lane has fallen off, at least towards the front. Those 2 that were up there have tucked in line. I see that third lane still living a little bit further back, the 43 of Brian Swafford, wanting to make it work, but so far he's the only driver that dares to do it now. We keep saying there's been a handful of incidents, take it easy, get there, but we're now past the halfway point, right? 34 laps in the works right now. Next time by, going to be 26 laps to go. Eventually, they're going to reach the point where they think, all right, it's time to go. The push it up front got us in trouble earlier, but they are still on it. All over the back bumper to Keister. That time was the 89 machine of Roger Buff Sr. He's second in line up top.
They're moving. They're trying to make some moves, and everyone's fighting for that win. And the winner of this race, they're going to have the opportunity to pick a Magnus watch. Magnus watches, they came on board as a sponsor for this event. So our winner, not only are they going to take home $4,000, but, we have a spinner. Are they going to wreck? It doesn't look like they're wrecking. They're keeping it together. He's keeping it together. But as I was saying,
we're good. It was James Anderson. He saved it. So for the moment, we're good.
We're still good. But like I was saying, the winner can also pick a watch from Magnus, and they have some really cool watches on their website. Very car-themed watches. If you take a look at what they have on there, they have things, geared towards like GTRs and Mercedes and things like that. Very cool watches. So the winner is going to get to pick one of those. And also, every member of ERA, anyone who's a member of ERA, is going to have their name on my race truck at Daytona in real life this Friday. So if you're an ERA member, you will have your name on my race truck on the bed, and you'll be riding with me at Daytona International Speedway in real life. So if you're not an ERA member, you might want to make that happen soon.
Yeah, excitement under the lights tonight here in the sim at Daytona, and excitement coming up this weekend, Friday. You mentioned under the lights for the NASCAR Truck Series. Jesse, what's that like? I mean, obviously all these drivers who have maybe some minor real-world experience, as we see the 89 Machida Buff now go to the top, and that third lane rejoins the picture. It's one thing for some drivers to get maybe their initial racing exposure on the sim. Maybe some of these guys race at their local tracks, but as somebody who has raced at Daytona on the sim, who has also been able to race at Daytona in real life, I mean, what's sim racing like to someone like yourself?
You know what? Sim racing at Daytona and then racing in real life at Daytona is actually very similar. There's a lot of similarities there as far as, moving in different lanes and making things happen with the drafts and move yourself forward. How the vehicles get sucked up to the back of the other ones, depending on how far you are or how easy it is to lose the draft if you fall back too much. The transition between the apron and the track where, it's 30-something degrees of banking. All that stuff is just like it is in real life. So when you're on the sim and you're driving at Daytona, whatever you're feeling, and they're wrecking, and wrecks also happen like this in real life.
And it is a big mess. It started with Colin Keister. Somehow, he's rolling the right direction at the end of it all after he got tagged. The first car I saw around was the 45 machine of Dylan Jones. First time we had talked about him tonight. And it is another big mess at lap number 37. We had seen that third line come into play at several different points in this race, but it was mainly 2 cars, maybe 1 car. That was the first time all night, Jesse, that third lane had really kind of established itself. At one point, there was 4 cars working on the outside. And unfortunately, again, I think this is going to come down to just a little bit of bumper pushing in the corners is what causes this. We'll wait for the replay to confirm, but that third lane had finally gotten some momentum. Let's look.
4 cars up there. I mean, that's what you need. You need something to help you push, but man, they got into each other, and that did not help.
And it was so well coordinated before that. Dylan Jones was leading the outside. Hunter O. Johnson was second in line. And then there was the number 90 of Daniel Eberhardt. All those three, they were working together, but right there, just a little bit too much by the 12, especially coming off of the corner there. That car's going to get really light when it unloads from the banking and comes back down onto the flat. And this will be a good look right here.
Looks like they locked bumpers a little bit. The 12 car got into him just a little bit. But yeah, the back of the car, the rear of the car does get light when you're coming out of the banking, going into the flat. And that's just the worst time in the world to put your bumper on someone else's rear bumper. And that's what happens right there. You'll end up turning somebody, and then you take out half the field.
35 machine got some damage. That was Kyle Vallejos, who we talked a little bit about tonight as well. The 17 of Colin Keister was involved. The 57 of Colt Cook, who we haven't talked much about, was also involved in that incident. And again, an incident where a lot of cars are involved. Could have been worse. I think it could always be worse at Daytona with some of the wrecks that we've seen at this joint over the years. Maybe some more minor damage on Russell Brotka and the 67 of Tommy Holmes. So it does claim quite its fair share of victims. I know we were talking about being on the edge pit strategy-wise. That is no longer the case. If you pit now, you are going to be good to go the distance. So everybody 13th on back comes down pit road. Your top 12 drivers stayed out that time by. Some of them could probably come down this time, but all those drivers now good to go to the end, and that pesky overtime that always is a possibility in a plate race, they will be good for several overtime attempts for those who topped off on fuel.
While we're under caution here, I just want to get some clarification from you, Jesse. We've had actually several people have asked in all of the chats that we have going right now. Again, eRacing Association on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. We're streaming live on all of those, but several folks have asked for clarification. If they join the eRacing Association right now, tonight, maybe tomorrow at the latest, will they still be on your truck as you race at Daytona?
You know what? We can probably try to figure something out to make that happen. I know right now we're getting everything printed out for all the folks who are already members, but we might still have a little bit of white space on there. And maybe if we get enough people to join up, maybe I'll just hand write them in. I'll just hand write each one of those names in there so they can ride on board with us at Daytona International Speedway this Friday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern on Fox Sports 1.
That is what Sharpies are made for. Absolutely. So hopefully that answered the questions of the folks in chat. And Sharpie, if you're listening, I mean, you know, come on board with us. We'll bring you along for the ride too.
And again, just wanted to plug that site again. You mentioned, you know, this SpringBowl, a great event, and thousands of dollars literally in prizes up for grabs tonight. And this isn't it for 2021. A lot more still to come this year. I know you guys mentioned committing to 4 races, so at least 3 more still to come after this. That's eragaming.gg for more information. Anywhere else, Jesse, that those folks at home need to go if they want to get involved, or is that the best spot?
That's the best spot. If they can go to eragaming.gg, that's where you can go sign up as a member. That's where you can begin your membership. We have monthly and we have annual. And us putting the names of our members on the race truck for this race, this isn't just a one race thing. We're going to do it as many times as possible. Obviously, I'm not currently racing every single race in the truck series, but I'm going to be racing quite a few. And the ones I'm racing, I want to make sure that we're giving the best bang for our buck to our ERA members, because I want to show them that, hey, I'm just like you. I'm just a normal person who's getting the chance to live out my dreams. I sim race with all of you. We do all the same stuff. It's fun. And I just want to give back.
To the EPM restart zone, we are back underway from Daytona. 20 laps to go.
Let's see what kind of aggression happens. We got 20 laps to go, and this is the point where people start getting really aggressive, because if you're in the middle of the pack, you're going to want to start making your way up front. You don't just make it up front within a couple laps. You can definitely lose a lot of real estate within a lap or two, but trying to make your way up front and do it clean, it takes a little bit of time. So right now, with the 20 laps to go, 19 laps to go, you're going to want to start making some moves, but you got to be smart as you do it. Don't get left behind. Don't move out to the third lane without any help, because you're going to fall back.
Inside, going to win the trip back to the start-finish line this time. There is somebody looking to make a third lane. The 90 of Eberhardt stays in line for the time being. I think it's safe to say now, inside of 20 to go, we are in the home stretch. It doesn't mean that it's total gloves off. You still need the car in one piece to get to the end of the race. But this is where drivers are going to start to control things. Look at the 43 of Swafford. He'll go from the bottom to the outside because he knew that that 12 of Johnson was going to have a run. So he goes up there, Jesse, trying to work both lanes right now. It's tricky, but very effective if you can do it.
Very, very effective. It's crazy to see him doing it. I mean, he's looking like a real-life NASCAR driver. I mean, to be able to do that is difficult. To judge how fast that lane is coming, to judge if it's smart to even get in front of it, because just because the lane's coming doesn't mean it's always smart to jump in front of it. If they got, at least a few miles per hour on you coming up, and you jump in front of them, you're going to get taken out. So you gotta judge it, see what speed it is, and see if you can. And he did a really, really good job controlling the front of the field. He's still doing it right now. He's still moving around, moving to the outside lane, trying to control it, trying to slow down, trying to keep that lead. But that inside lane is not giving up, and they're pushing forward.
So I guess we were on the three-quarter send portion of the program from the green flag until now. And now we're in full send time. Is that where we're at, Jesse?
Yeah, we're definitely in full send time right now. People are going, they're making moves, and they're doing it kind of clean. I give everyone their props. Looks like they're doing it. Just as I said, they were doing it clean. Somebody gets turned into the inside, but he doesn't wreck. But he's below that yellow line. Is he going to try to come up? I don't know. We'll see if that causes a chain reaction.
It was Roger Buff Sr. We had talked about him quite a bit tonight. There he is now, and that is what about 15 miles an hour a speed difference looks like. He was in third position. He is all the way fallen basically outside of the top 30 in the blink of an eye. Maybe his hopes for the win in this SpringBowl gone just like that. But everybody else did a very good job of moving up, getting out of the way, avoiding an incident. And if we stay too wide, all with the exception of Colin Keister. Now here's the move by Cody Smith. That orange and white Chevy moves up top. The 17 has a drafty partner. And now let's see what the third lane can do.
Yeah, that's what happens if you make a mistake in a field, an entire field covered by 88 thousandths of a second. You're going to drop back like a stone, and that's just what we saw. And it's getting ready to get crazy, as if it hasn't been crazy enough already. And now that top line not working right now at all. Not entirely surprised by that. You've got a bunch of cars down low in that bottom and that middle line on newer tires, and the top line you're lengthening that lap so much trying to run up there, and we see the 18 car trying to force his way back down into the middle line. With 15 to go, things are definitely heating up as if they weren't already hot enough.
I think some guys have been on full send since the start of the race. Everybody now, I think, going to be at that point, working lap number 46 of 60. That 43 of Swafford unable to work both lanes right now because the 12 of O. Johnson has gotten alongside him. But when you're leading the line, with the exception of moving up and moving down and trying to control the momentum, you are really at the mercy, Jesse, of how good the guy behind you is. So on the inside, Swafford really needs that number 3 of Michael Sturgill to be a good pusher. Hold that thought for the moment. A spin in the back and a caution at 14 laps to go in this race. Obviously, your leaders were holding it, but not these drivers, as there's a good bit of damage. I think Ben Horst as well with some damage. Let's see what happened. Oh, way in the back.
Way back there. Ouch. Yeah, they weren't even part of the equation up front. And it just got a little bit aggressive, got a little bit sideways, and some people got taken out. It happens. I mean, at the end of the day, that's racing right there. There's battles all across the field. It's not just the folks up front. the folks who are in the top 5, top 10 aren't the only ones who deserve the battle. Everyone can. And as you can see, battles happen everywhere, and it ends up causing some wrecks. Actually, a
tail end
big
of the
chain
top
reaction.
pack there. Yeah, I'm not surprised that's where it comes from, because when we get to this point in the race, those are the guys who are going to get a little bit more desperate, right? If they're running 20th, they're close enough where they can see the leader, they can taste it, but there's 19 cars in front of them, right? That's a lot of traffic to navigate in a short amount of time. So those are the drivers who maybe are going to push it a little bit too hard, because that's when the desperation sets in. You know, the top 5 is the big money payouts. You want to be up in there. Certainly, we saw how big the difference is between first and second. That's going to be fun coming out of turn 4 for the last time. But those are the drivers who they're close enough to taste it, but they're not close enough to be a part of it, so they maybe push a little bit too hard. And you can see that kind of de facto 3 wide. It turned into 4 wide for a moment, and they almost got away with it until right there the 1 got tagged and collected the 52.
It just happens. That's racing. That is racing, and that's what happens on the sim. It's really cool to see on iRacing, you know, just how realistic this software is, how realistic sim racing is, how the little mistakes you make on here, I mean, it makes a big difference. But it's the same things that happen in real life. I mean, these same exact incidents, these same exact circumstances, it's all just like it is in real life. And it's really cool to see just how far iRacing has come over the years to create this very, very realistic virtual environment. And now it's given folks like us here at eRacing Association the opportunity to put on cool events and make it seem as real as possible, but not really have drivers in the danger zone of going 200 miles per hour at a track. But they can sit at home, race, and if they wreck, hey, you know, at least you can reset.
A lot less expensive when you wreck it, a lot less scary as well. As we pace and close it on the final 10 laps of this race, we'll take a quick opportunity to step aside. You're watching RaceSpot TV's coverage of the EPM Omega Cup Series Spring Bowl. From the Daytona International Speedway, RaceSpot TV's coverage of the EPM Omega Cup Series tonight brought to you by Equity Prime Mortgage. Their management team has over 50 years of experience in the mortgage industry, providing exceptional pricing without compromising follow-through or customer service. For more information, log on to equityprime.com. We're happy that you're with us for the virtual Daytona International Speedway. Evan Pasoko, Jesse Awuji, Sean Yoder on the call with our producer Tyler Maxon. We are going to take a restart right now with 11 laps to go in this EPM Omega Cup Series Spring Bowl from Daytona. Handful of cautions here and there. Some big names have been taken out over the course of this one, but we have $5,000 in cash and prizes ready to be handed out, and the drivers on the front row, Brian Swafford and Hunter O. Johnson, have been the big players as of, I think, the halfway point in this race. So the pace car is going to dive down. We'll hit the EPM restart zone once more. The number 43 of Swafford in control on the inside with 11 laps to go.
Let's see how crazy these drivers want to get. They got 11 laps to go, so you know only one thing's on their mind. $4,000. Who is going to fight for it? Who's going to lay back? Who just wants to just be on TV?
Well, the outside better on this restart. Johnson will clear to the inside. He'll dive down, and a new race leader at lap number 50 goes to the 12 of Hunter O. Johnson. So now an interesting position for the 541 of Jackson Crowder. He leads the outside. He's pushed by the 50 of Torres and the 90 of Eberhardt.
Jared Torres. Jared Torres actually is a drag racer. He's actually a really fast drag racer and has a very high horsepower Pontiac that he drag races with, goes to the Red List Series events in California, and now he's on the sim race, and he's trying out this oval stuff and doing pretty well. He's back in that top 3.
Oh, there's a lot of pushing on the outside to the inside. Wow, what a move by Crowder. He was barely clear over Johnson, made the move anyways, and now he controls the bottom line clearly in full send mode with 9 laps to go this time by. What does Hunter O. Johnson do? Does he look to the outside? Does he want to stay? The inside's got the advantage by 2 car lengths.
They're making a lot of moves, and they're making them clean. They only have inches. It's a game of inches right now. I know they say football is a game of inches, but racing is also a game of inches, especially on the super speedways at Daytona. They are making some very, very wild moves.
Oh, and look at the 9 car darting to the outside. Garrett Conrath wanted to go over to the 3rd lane. Oh, they're going to spin behind. Malone gets turned in turn number 3. Is this going to trigger a caution? Most of the drivers straightened it back out. So far, green. And now the leader's wreck. Brian Swafford is turned from the race lead.
No.
There are 2 wrecks now on the front straightaway, and there is the caution. What a wild lap.
Wow. They try to let the race go on, but it got crazy. When one started wrecking the next. It's just a chain reaction across the field. It could go all the way back and come all the way back up front. Wow.
And there's 2 incidents to watch in this one. Sounds like the first one may have started in and around the number 20. Let's take a look. It all happens going into turn 3. There's some 3 wide. There's that big move to the outside by the 9 that we saw. And then it's the 20 there below who gets tagged. So the 67 comes down into him, turns him around. That's the first wreck. But again, all the cars are still pointed the right direction. So race control, Jesse, doing everything they could to let them race it out. But then there was the subsequent issue. We'll get a replay in just a moment. That happened with Brian Swafford. We saw a very aggressive move where I didn't think they were clear. And this is a situation where maybe the spotter or the crew chief has some blame because this was not clear. That's Swafford trying to go from the inside row to the outside. He tried to squeeze up basically in front of Hunter O. Johnson to take over the lead, and he was not clear of the 12. He turned across the nose and ended up into the fence. We're going to look at that one in just a moment, but that was the second incident, and at that point, race control had to throw the yellow because that was pretty much all the cars in the field. Let's look. So at this point, they're wrecking behind. Your leaders are fine, and it's going to be right here. The 43 is going to go bottom to top, car high, and that did not work, and that was the second big mess.
Wow, yeah, he wasn't clear at all. He might have thought he was clear. Maybe he has a spotter with him. Maybe he has a virtual spotter. I don't know. But and he took another lick right when he thought it was okay. That's the thing here at Daytona. And he takes another lick, and he takes another one. He's just getting pinballed at Daytona. When you wreck, you got to hold on the brakes and stay on the brake. And you got to wait till everyone passes you before you start going. If you start trying to move and people are still trying to pass you at probably 100 to 150 miles per hour, you're going to get hit. And that's what happened. But, man, it's just crazy because you're going to probably have some people wondering, okay, why when the first folks got a little bit bent out of shape, why didn't they throw a caution at that point? Well, the reason is because it was, towards the middle or so of the field. And what was going on was it wasn't really causing a danger for the leaders up front. People were still pointed somewhat in the right direction. Yeah, they were getting a little sideways. Yeah, they were sliding all over the place, but they were all still moving. It wasn't just a lot of wrecked cars pointed into the wall, laying, sideways across the track. they were all still moving in the right direction. So race control decided, hey, let's just keep the race going. Let's keep it moving forward. Let's try to make it to the end. But when the rest of the field started wrecking out and basically the whole field was wrecked, yeah, we had to throw a caution at that point.
And we'll see that again for the next late race restart. If it's towards the back of the field, race control likely going to do everything they can to let your race leaders run this one out. But when it is the leaders who are the incident, not much of a choice but to trigger the caution flag and slow things down. And this will put us just on the cusp of going into overtime. I don't think we'll actually go past it, so we're likely going to be looking at maybe a 4 or 3 lap shootout, depending on when pit service is completed and when the lights go out on top of that iRacing official pace truck up at the front of the field. But it could be kind of a de facto attempt, right? Because it's a shootout. You're going to have to get to the white flag for this race to become official. If not, then we do go to overtime. And I think either way, we're in store for a classic Daytona finish. But I don't know. I mean, if I'm Jackson Crowder, do I feel good with the target on my back, Jesse? Would you rather be the prey, or would you rather be the hunter in the back? I mean, leading, in theory, always the best place to be as the lights go out, but in some cases, you're a bit of a sitting duck. I know we talked about it a little bit ago, that when you're leading the line, you're very dependent on that drafting help from behind. I don't really think there's any one specific spot I'd like to be. I just want to be in the mix. If you're top 10, top 15, you have a shot. But I don't have an ability right now to pinpoint who I'm liking at this point. I think it's anybody's race.
Well, for me personally, I think the best position to be in, especially at this point of the race, is being in that third position spot. So being in the second row on the inside, it allows you to gauge, okay, when are the leaders taking off on the restart in the EPM restart zone? And then from there, it allows you to get a little bit of run, and you can start moving people around and just being in a good spot. You don't have the target on you anymore, but you're in a position where you can easily take the lead with just one little mistake, one little move by the leaders up front. You've got the lead. So that third position, I believe, is probably one of the best positions to be in at this point in the race.
And everybody feels like they have a shot. There's 29 cars on the lead lap. We have seen some wild finishes at Daytona, both here on the sim, both and in real life. It's a Daytona heavy week for race fans, and we're happy that Race Spot is part of your Daytona Speed Week here on the iRacing service with the EPM Omega Cup Series here tonight from Daytona. Pace car down and in. Would it be for the last time tonight? We're going to find out. It'll be a restart with 4 laps to go. Crowder, Sturgill, Lee, Torres, and Conrath, your top 5 to the EPM restart zone.
Green, 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 and they're off.
And the spin from the top spot. It's Crowder in the traffic. A huge wreck. We are going to overtime.
Wow, the big one. That was a big one. That was a big one. I mean, you can see the front end of the 12 completely crunched in. I mean, that car is junked.
And again, not clear, trying to control these lanes. Crowder started on the bottom as the control car. He saw that the outside had a run, guys, but he went too high. Watch this move. He'll go up to block the 3 of Sturgill, but he's going to go past him. Sturgill gets underneath. At this point, that position belongs 3. The 541 tries to walk it back down, comes into the 04, takes out the field with him. That was, in theory, a good move by Crowder, but it was poorly executed and throws away an opportunity for the win. That's got to hurt.
Yeah, that's definitely going to hurt for sure. I can see what he wanted to do, but it wasn't executed right. And when he came back, I think that's what sealed the deal. If he didn't come back, he might have still been okay, but he knew that he was out in left field. He knew he didn't have any help in that third lane when he missed it. And he tried to come back into the second lane, and by then he had lost the position. And we'll see right here. He missed it. Then all of a sudden he decides, you know what, I'm coming back. Do I have it? No, I'm getting turned.
I mean, he knew it was close because you saw from the onboard there, he started coming and stopped. He knew it was close. And I think he made a decision, Jesse, he could have stayed up there but he would have probably fallen outside of the top 15, right? He would have been there without help, unless somebody went up to the third lane to help him. But at that moment, third lane on your own is not where you want to be. I think that was just a hope and a prayer that he could squeeze back down there, and that was his race. Either he gets back in line and he has a chance to win, or he stays there and he loses. He tried to squeeze it. You can see the 3 getting the drafting help. It all goes to that move where he tried to go up to block the second lane, maybe tried to be too pretty with it. I probably would have held the bottom for a little bit longer, went up to make the move, tried to control the lane, went too far, and tried to make up for that mistake. And at no fault of the 3, maybe if this is lap 7, Michael Sturgill cuts him a break. At lap 57, no way.
Yeah, that's right. No way. It's checkers or wreckers. And that's the mentality of everybody right now as we're moving into the final few laps of this race. It is getting exciting, and people are going to be throwing some pretty crazy moves. We're going to see how this thing plays out. I think we have 3 green, white, checker attempts.
I believe we do have 3 attempts if necessary, and this is going to be attempt number 1. So we are officially heading into overtime. So we'll come for the green. If we get to the white, this race will be official. If not, and we have an incident, we'll try it again. Again, race control will do what they can. Just because there's a spin doesn't mean it's a guaranteed yellow if it comes to the back, but it seems like it's the leaders who have been wrecking in this one. And, you know, I go back to the point we made earlier, guys, about the importance of qualifying. And it's always one of my favorite go-to stats is, you know, how many guys started up inside of the top 10 that are running there now. Of the top 19 cars right now on track, only 2 of them are drivers who started inside of the top 10. In fact, it's probably better to have started towards the rear of the field than at the front. And we talk about razor-thin margins. We talked about how 53 drivers attempted to qualify for this race and only 40 made it. Well, that 40th transfer was that purple and black Chevy on the outside. Christopher Reagan was the last transfer into this race. He started at the very back of the field in 40th position, and right now he is on the front row with a chance to win $4,000.
The stakes are high, and I don't know what's going to happen next. I do know one thing. They're going to get pretty aggressive right here, but what are they going to do? Who's going to get super aggressive? Who's going to be smart? We see Jared Torres sitting right there in my favorite spot to be in, that 3rd spot. Let's see if he makes some moves to push a few people out of the way. And it's about to get interesting.
Is there damage on the 3? I know that there's some back-end damage on Michael Sturgill, your race leader. There's also some back-end damage on the 47 of Reagan. But is there any front-end damage on that 3 from that car coming across the hood in that most recent incident? Back-end damage, you can probably get away with it. It's going to make it difficult for the car to push you. Front-end damage is always tough, Jesse, because your concern is if you're pushing, you got to watch those engine temps.
Yeah, those engine temps can get pretty high, and if your motor blows, it's not good. It's not a good thing for anyone. You got to watch those engine temps. So you got to really be careful on how you're aligning yourself behind the other race cars, how much airflow you got. Are you keeping everything cool? Well, at the end of the day, there's not that many laps left, so you can almost treat it like qualifying and just send it.
I think you're pushing till it blows. There's a lot of money on the line, and we're going to try it again for our first attempt at a green-white checkered overtime finish. Pace truck down the front row of Sturgill and Reagan. Going to bring us to the green flag through the EPM restart zone. Green flag flies. 2 laps to go.
And they're getting crazy right behind. You can see somebody goofed up the restart, and all of a sudden, you know, you see some folks passing them, but the front 4, man, they're really stepping away right now.
Everybody else behind can't figure out. Yeah, they can't figure out what behind them. Those are the guys that are all over the place. The guys up front staying with each other's helping, but look at that move. Rhett Tucker going to go top to bottom, and they'll leave the 47 out on his own.
You can see some people getting pushed below the yellow line. Some people trying to make moves below the yellow line. That's a penalty if you make a move below the yellow line. Don't do that.
47 going to fall. 4th in line. He tucks in line. Here comes a draft from behind. Watch maybe for a bit of momentum coming for the likes of Finn Robinson and company. White flag in the air from Daytona. 1 lap to go. This race is official. Sturgill leads.
What's Jared Torres going to do? Torres built, what's he going to do? The number 50 car, he's trying to find a way. Is he going to do it clean? Is he going to do it dirty? We're going to find out next.
who breaks the draft to the outside, looks to 99 machine to Rhett Tucker. He doesn't have help now. Here comes the number 20 to Robbins. With a spin, and Sturgill wins at Daytona by 3/100ths of a second.
Wow. What a race. What a race. And Jared Torres, I give him a lot of props. He kept it clean. He could have done a lot of different things. He could have turned him. He could have pushed him. He could have done some things, but he didn't. He kept it clean. He was like, if I'm going to pass you, I'm going to pass you clean. And wow.
Clean to the end. They wrecked behind the outside, tried that entire last lap to come around and catch up, and at the end, it's going to be about a half a car length of a differential that keeps them out of victory lane. And Michael Sturgill, who took the green flag at 2 laps to go in the race lead, is going to win the EPM Omega Cup Series Spring Bowl from Daytona. He's got company as he's going to come around and do some celebrating as your race winner. Let's talk results from the World Center of Racing, the virtual World Center of Racing, that is. Michael Sturgill gets the race win. Final margin of victory, 0.034 seconds. Atop Tucker in second and Jared Torres in third. Looking through the field, your top 6 finishers all finished within a half a second of each other, Jesse. Real close finish in that green-white checker.
Wow. It was such an amazing race. We had a really good time tonight. A lot of great battling throughout the whole field. Everyone was fighting. And for the most part, yeah, we had some cautions. Yeah, we had some wrecks. But that's part of Daytona. That's part of super speedway racing. But for the most part, I believe it was a pretty clean race. But, man, I had a really good time here at the EPM Omega Cup Series Spring Bowl here at Daytona. Such a good time. Such a fun time. Loved it. Loved all the racing. These drivers are very skilled. They have a lot of talent. They did a very great job racing throughout the entire race. I just loved everything that I saw. And for the folks who are ERA members, who are basically everyone in this race, and those who have signed up on eragaming.gg as a member, everyone who signed up for a member, I'm going to have you on my truck at Daytona International Speedway this weekend, Friday night, racing in real life. Not virtually, but in real life. And thank you to everyone who watched. So this is such a cool event.
There's a look at our top 10 results. We'll let this scroll through, Sean. I can only imagine everybody tuned in and enjoyed that one.
Yeah, absolutely. The chat is going a little bit crazy right now, but there's one person in particular that is losing their mind right now. We have a Mr. Mike Sturgill in our Facebook chat right now, watching the race live, watching his son take that $4,000 home. Heck of a race. Congratulations to your boy, Mike. And one of the things that he said in the chat, I've cheered more tonight than I've ever cheered at a real track. That's good stuff. That's why we're doing this at ERA. Thanks so much for tuning in, Mike. Mike earlier in the chat said that he was going to get a rig and come out and race with his boy. Heck yeah. Bring it. Bring the families together. Bring them out on track. Let's do this some more. Don't forget, CODA's coming up next. Circuit of the Americas road course, cup cars, big things on track with tiny tires and lots of horsepower. It's just going to get better from here, y'all. This is good stuff.
See if he's nice enough, maybe hook his dad up with some sim gear, right? With that $4,000, get it both on track for the next time out. Let's take a second look at that last lap as this one was able to get completed on the first attempt of the green to white checkered. They all started single file and strung out, but as this lap goes on, Jesse, we'll see that outside line creep in. They probably only needed maybe a couple hundred more feet to make it happen, but that 3-car held the bottom, and that 50 machine you mentioned of Torres kept it clean and helped them all the way through.
Yeah, he helped them, and he could have done a lot of different things. I mean, a lot of people have been in that situation and have decided to take the dirty route and turn someone, but he didn't. He was like, if I win this race, I'm going to try to do it clean. I'm going to keep drafting, see if I can get him to make a little bit of a mistake, do something. But he kept it clean, and you could see that second lane creeping up. It would have been very interesting if this was at Talladega, because that start-finish line would have been probably 300 feet ahead, and it might have been a different race.
Might have gone to the 99 if he had that extra space. Instead, Sturgill wins by 3/100ths of a second. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside. When we come back, we'll talk with your top finishers. Michael Sturgill, your race winner from Daytona. Post-race action is next on RaceSpot TV. And back live from the virtual Daytona International Speedway, coverage of the EPM Omega Cup Series SpringBowl, brought to you by Equity Prime Mortgage. Their management team has over 50 years of experience in the mortgage industry. They provide exceptional pricing without compromising follow-through or customer service. To learn more, visit equityprime.com. Back live on RaceSpot TV post-race for the virtual Daytona International Speedway, where Michael Sturgill is your race winner of this Omega Cup Series SpringBowl. And Jesse, I'll hand things off to you. You're talking with our race winner.
Man, what a great race. And Michael, what were your thoughts on that final lap after that restart when you saw that things were going somewhat clean? What were you thinking?
Yeah, after I got to the white and it was official, I knew I had Jared back there, me and him run all the time in officials. So I knew he would probably stick with me. So I just rode around the bottom and hoped and prayed the top side did not get a run on me.
And it looked like they started to get that run. I saw the 99 car move up to that second lane, start getting up there, and almost seemed like if they had a few hundred more feet, they would have gave you a run for your money. But it ends up you kept it clean, you kept it in there, and you ended up taking the $4,000 first place prize. I mean, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, I don't think it's set in yet. My adrenaline's still pumping. This is the biggest race I for sure have ever won. So just trying to take it all in right now.
I bet it's a lot to take in. And guess what? Another surprise we're giving you too. You're going to get to pick your own Magnus watch. Magnus watches. They make some really, really cool car themed watches, and you're going to get to pick one of those, any one of those from their website. So that's just another thing to throw right there into your prize pool. But $4,000, a watch, and also all the viewers, the thousands of viewers who are watching tonight got to watch you make it up front, take that win. And I just know I know it's feeling great. I know your parents, your family are probably super, super happy.
Oh yeah. I've been getting texts and messages. I shared the stream link before we started the race, so my phone's been blowing up, and I actually heard my dad going crazy in the other room over my headset and everything. So they're going wild.
That's awesome. Well, good job. Thank you so much for competing in our Spring Bowl event. Our next event is going to be in May 2021. We're going to have our Summer Bowl. It's going to be at COTA at Circuit of America. So we're going to go into the road course. We've already done a short track. We've done a super speedway now. Now we're going to a road course. So get those road course skills sharpened up, because we're going to be back at it again, giving away the same prize money again in May. So looking forward to another one. Good job on your win. Thank you so much for competing, and thank you to all the viewers who jumped on board to watch.
I'll jump in as well. And Michael, congratulations, and thanks for chatting with us. Jesse, let's talk about that challenge, right? The whole point coming in tonight, we were talking about what's different, Daytona versus Nashville. I mean, taking these things over to COTA is going to be such a unique challenge. That's going to be debuting this year in the NASCAR Cup Series, but I know that a lot of people have wanted cars racing there in the past, and that's something that you've been able to do on iRacing for quite some time now. So tell us about the decision to pick that combo, and maybe some of the challenges that'll present these guys when we get around to the Summer Bowl.
When we started doing all the planning for eRacing Association and our events and the Omega Cup Series, what we were thinking about was, how can we have a good mix of tracks? We don't just want to do 1.5 mile tracks or short tracks or this and that. We want to have a good mixture. So we figured, hey, let's make sure we have a super speedway, a short track. And then with the new Circuit of America's track jumping into the schedule, we're like, hey, let's throw a road course in there. Let's throw Circuit of America's. It's going to be a new thing. No one's really used to it at all. No one has laps there. People are going to be practicing really for the first time on the sim on that track here pretty soon. No one's going to really have a true advantage unless they're just a road course type person who likes running road courses on the sim. But it's one thing to run the sports cars at Circuit of America, but it's another thing to run a stock car. It's a 4-speed, a lot of horsepower, no grip, no aero, no nothing. You're just driving a raw, big V8 machine around this very finesse type track. It's going to be interesting to watch everyone run. I'm pumped to see what happens in May when we put on that event for the Summer Bowl.
That's the best part, right? You can take a fine-tuned open-wheel car there, but there's something else about putting a car on a road course that's not made for it and trying to tame all that horsepower. And we certainly look forward to that event coming up. But Jesse, as we close this one out, just wanted to thank you and the entire team at the ERA for bringing this event to us. And also wanted to wish you a safe and good luck in your race coming up on Friday.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to racing on Fridays, Fox Sports 1, 7:30 p.m. Eastern in the NASCAR Truck Series. I'll be in the eRA race truck, and we're also going to have Notable Live on board as a sponsor, and also TBS contractors. And all of our ERA members who have signed up as ERA members are going to be on the bed of the race truck. We're going to have all of them, all their names on there, and I might be having to handwrite a few in there. Everyone who went online tonight to sign up as an ERA member, if you haven't and you're still listening, go to www.eragaming.gg and then go to our membership section and sign up as a Clutch Club member, whether it's an annual or monthly. Sign up, and we'll see what we can do to get your name on the racetrack.
Get it done, get on track for Friday, and we'll see you in the Lone Star State later this year. Until next time, though, that's it for us here tonight for the Daytona International Speedway. On behalf of our entire RaceSpot TV team behind the scenes and the entire eRacing Association team as well, for your broadcast crew tonight, for our producer Tyler Maxon, for Sean Yoder, Jesse Wuji, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to thank you for tuning in, and congratulations to Michael Sturgill, your EPM Omega Cup Series Spring Bowl champion. We'll catch you next time on RaceSpot TV.
The EPM mission reads that we are a resource and voice for financial empowerment. The EPM vision, which is connected to the EPM way, is to continue to offer financial service, communication, and assistance to the communities we serve.
What makes us different is our loan officers. They care about the people. Our number one message in this company is the customer. Always do everything you can for that customer.
We as a staff work together as a team, and we also on one page, one goal, to know that the end goal is the other person, which is the home buyer.
The big thing that we want to do is provide financial empowerment to our consumers. The ramifications of not owning versus owning is very vast. So it's really about maximizing your earning potential to build wealth.
Our diversity, it's a large part of what sets us apart. And the way we look at business with an empathic approach, we do care.
I have grown up here. I've pretty much done almost every position here and have just grown and learned throughout the 10 years and been given tons of opportunity to advance. I can't tell you how much this place means to me.
My favorite part of EPM is the relationships that we build. I mean, I see my coworkers more than I even see my family throughout the week. So it's important that we have that relationship with each other. I know that I'm going to work hard with my coworkers, but I also know that I'm going to be able to have a fun time with them.
When you join EPM, it's like you're gaining a huge, giant family. The people here are just funny and amazing.
The 23 fundamentals, or the EPM way, is our new culture plan. They are led by great communication, ethics, morals. All in all, they make us better. They make us EPM. The idea of work and home is truly been blurred. So when our culture plan was created, we wanted to transcend just being in the office.
It's really about being a brotherhood, a sisterhood, but it's still all about one mission and one objective, is to make sure that we're not only leading to financial empowerment, but we're growing our communities, we're serving our communities, we're growing our individuals.
Most of the loans we're doing are for families. It's the biggest investment in their lives.
For me to know that every little part that goes into the end goal of home ownership makes a difference, and we're playing a big part of that for that prospective home buyer to have their future home.
There's certain programs that not every lender offers, and we try to offer as many of those programs as possible so anybody could kind of fit the mold with a program that we have and offer that to them so then they could get that purchase done and own a home.
You know, the gold standard is treat somebody how you would want to be treated. I think that's the way people would want to be treated best. They want to make sure that somebody's looking out for their best interest, not yours, not the company, not the industry. So you definitely got to put yourself in their shoes and empathize and make sure you're looking and more importantly, listening very, very generously to what they're saying and what they're trying to accomplish.
It feels amazing to know that my team and I were able to contribute to a prospective buyer having their home. And for that home buyer to finally walk into the doors and have their home is just amazing, and we contributed to that.
It gives you a sense of pride in what we're doing here and gratitude to be able to help out those people get things and achieve their goals as well.
A lot of people talk about care, and the only way to truly care is through showing action and showing what you're doing for them in that moment.
We're able to help people to achieve the American dream, which is home ownership. But it's not just home ownership. That's your home. That's your family. So generations can be there just by one impactful movement that we do.